would love to hear how you came over Life Alignment, or actually, I saw or read or heard that you downloaded it, and I'm curious about what did you download it from? Do you have a sense of who it came from? Was it your higher self? Was it, galactic beings? Was it just your inner self? What would you call it? And take us through this process. What happened? When did this happen?
Well, I had been channeling, if you call it channeling, downloading and voicing, because I began to develop an inner hearing, a clear audience. And we had a retreat in Toronto. We had a clinic, a holistic clinic in the city, and a country retreat where we took many, many groups through over many years through a week cleansing process. And during that time, we did the physical work with the diet or the fasting and the colon therapy and all other therapies. But I started doing energy work at that time. And out of that grew a need, because people were coming to these retreats and saying, how you have to teach us what you're doing, because they saw miracles happening, people with all sorts of diseases coming out healthy and well. And I couldn't really teach, because most of it was intuitive. I was really being guided. And I'd got to that point where I could put aside my rational mind and just allow, because you have to allow the mind, we have to transcend the mind. You have to allow the mind to step aside in order to receive guidance. And so one day I was guided to go from Toronto, where we had our clinic, to our retreat. And this was 1991. And in a 2 or 3 day deep meditative process, I downloaded. Now, I had, just to a preamble, I had studied many, many things, many kinesiologies and many techniques. And I was already becoming a doctor of natural medicine. But I downloaded a series of points, of body points, similar in a sense. You could liken it to acupuncture points, but it wasn't. But these points were completely different from anything I had learned before. They were quite new, which astounded me. So I couldn't wait to get back to my clinic and started working with it, and was astounded by the power that was coming through this technique, which was very simple, but it was something that I heard, I was guided to write, and I just literally moved out of the way. And this module, it was the first module of body alignment at that time. And so I experimented with it a bit, and people were waiting, because they experienced it, waiting for me to teach it, which I eventually did. And then every year or two, a new module came, and they're still coming. This is 30 years later. So it's constantly being developed according to what's happening in the world and the changes in the field of energy around the planet and around the solar system and the cosmos. Because this is intergalactic in a sense. It's very expansive and takes into account a variety of factors that are happening in our environment. I was familiar with the guidance at that time, but that changed over years, and I was introduced specifically to those that were guiding me, but I didn't know initially who it was. I just received it, trusted it, and then a name was given, names were given to me along the way. And so that I didn't get caught up in an identity. I was just needing to trust the essence of what was coming through, and I couldn't deny it. The power was immense. So I went along, and over the years I've met and become familiar, and so have our students become familiar with the personalities, the beings. They're not personalities in that sense, but the beings that have guided this work and
I'm so
coordinated.
curious, who are they? Or is that a
And
secret within the community?
they do come from around the galaxy. At some point, I was introduced to a being that came from Sirius B. Now, I'm not sure if you're aware of Sirius B, but Sirius has played a key role in the development of civilizations and technology in this planet. As you know, there were times where, the Dark Ages, caveman, at the same time that was happening, there were advanced civilizations of beings from, outer space that had intentions of bringing high intelligence onto the planet. I mean, those that have built our temples and pyramids in ways that could never be done, even with our present technology. And so there were many visitors to this planet over the centuries that played a key role to our development. And so some of those beings I learnt to become familiar with and work with them.
Very fascinating. I mean, you did have that trust at that time, but I would imagine that I would be a bit like curious and maybe not afraid, but it seems just more extraordinary when we are speaking about star beings, in contrast with people who are past or angels.
Right, right.
Yeah, and I get curious, okay, so how do they look like? Are they from the future? How are their lives? Like, were you curious about who they were, and why did they contact you? And did you sort of get some more knowledge about their existence in contrast with ours?
It happened very gradually, so it wasn't all at once, so that it was overwhelming for my mind. So I had time to catch up. My mind had time to catch up as to what was really going on. And they would not introduce themselves until I was really ready. And otherwise, my ego might have got involved, my mind might have got involved. And this is the case with much of the technology that I've developed. I download, like the vortex cards that we work with, the tools, the energetic tools we work with. I'll download them, but nothing's told to me. I have to discover it myself. And it takes time. So I've got to go through the learning curve. And when I'm ready, they will reveal the true essence of what these tools are all about. And so they give me a lot of work. It's not a simple thing. Yeah, this is for this and this is for that. I have to do the work, which is empowering. If they would tell me, I wouldn't maybe have accepted it that easily, because it was maybe disempowering that way. But the fact that I had to take responsibility to learn, to experience, and to come to know in my heart and my gut what this was all about was much more effective that way.
Have you asked them sort of, why me? I'm receiving this powerful information and technology.
Mm.
Have you sort of felt that, wow, this is a big mission to receive? Why me?
At times, the mission seems enormous, absolutely enormous. But I felt the mission. I felt the sense of purpose actually very early in my life. And I was very fortunate to have had very difficult experiences. By the way, after the army, I was very, very ill for 25 years. I was in constant pain, my digestive system, from very harsh experiments that were done and experiences I had. So I had to work through a long process and eventually become embodied, because I probably wasn't fully in my body at that time. I was very involved in healing. I was a channel. I was doing spiritual healing and so on. But I had to take responsibility to heal myself. And it was because I did that. And my wife as well, Merle, had asthma for many years, and we did a process together that healed both her and me after many years of her asthma, my digestive problems. And so I learned my body was a laboratory. And I spent 9, 10 months of the year traveling, teaching. And by the end of that year, I was so burnt out. But that became a laboratory for me to learn what techniques and what tools and instruments were needed. And it all happened through my body. You got to have the experience, you have to go through the suffering or whatever it was needed and learn how to come through that. I also had a very severe COVID experience, ended up in hospital for 2.5 weeks, and I was literally taken through the whole experience, guided. In fact, I needed to have it. It was really for not only for myself, but for the whole Life Alignment family. And it was the most powerful and awakening experience I've ever had, because I was taken to a place because my body was very close to going, and had difficulty breathing. I had pneumonia, a particular type of pneumonia, but my spirit was so transcendent and so aware, and was taken to places that I would never have been able to go to in a normal situation. It was as if they had to put me into a point of letting go of my physical body, actually, and saying, fine, you've let go of everything. Now we can take you to a higher place, which was so magnificent and has lasted with me for the last, since then, was 2 years ago.
To watch the full video, click the link below, and I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel.
Resto